I would say I've genuinely been in love probably once in my entire life. But I've also said I love you to 3 different girls in my life. But I definitely meant it to all 3 of them. Whoever said or whoever made up the term that love is a choice is definitely right. Love is choosing to still tuck them in even though you both had a horrible day together. Love is still saying I love you at the end of the FaceTime even though you guys have been arguing for the past 3 to 4 hours and you got a midterm the next morning. Like choosing to still show someone that you care even when it's difficult, that's love right there. But being in love with someone is something entirely different. And I used to believe that this was just Hollywood BS. Like this idea that love is just pure bliss and warmth and a bunch of these good feelings all the time, I thought that was just bullshit. Until I experienced being in love with someone for the very first time. And how I knew I was in love with this person is that, and this is 100% how you know that you are definitely in love with someone, is that they become the only person in the world to you. When I was with this girl, I legitimately felt like she was the only girl in the world. Every girl that walked by me might as well have been a dude. Like, you know how when a hot girl walks by and even though you're in a relationship, a part of you just, you sneak a little peek, you take a quick peek. When your girl's not around, when you're by yourself, it's a natural male reaction. And most of you guys know what I'm talking about, even if you're in a relationship, it's just a guy thing to do. But when I was in love with this girl, I legitimately did not see any other girls. I actually went out of my way to look away when a girl walked by. It's like I'd be at the gym and then a girl in really tight leggings would walk by and I would go out of my way to look the other way. And it's not like my girlfriend was around, we were in different colleges, we did long distance. But that's how in love I was, to the point where she was legitimately the only girl in the world to me. And a lot of guys are gonna call cap on this, but I'm being honest. But I wouldn't even jerk off to the thought of another girl. I wouldn't watch porn, none of that. Like, I know a lot of guys are calling bullshit on that because you realize how hard that is, but it's true. I think it's pretty safe to say that most guys, even in relationship, still fantasize and jerk off to other girls. And maybe I'm letting the cat out the bag, but it's a fact, we all know this. But when I was in love, not only was she the only girl in the world to me, but she was directly connected to everything I did. And it just felt like the sun is out all the time, like there's always a sunset and everything always feels warm and everything's gonna be okay. That's what being in love feels like, and it's honestly the best feeling in the world. Like more than anything material you can gain, any amount of money, any house, any car, anything you can buy. As far as a feeling goes, it was the greatest feeling in the world. And if you really think about it, most things we do, we're chasing a feeling anyways, right? People want to be super successful, reach the top of their field, their careers, because they want to achieve some sort of feeling, some sort of love or acceptance from others. You want to make a lot of money for the acceptance, adulation, validation from others. Ultimately, we're all seeking love in some way, shape, or form anyways. It sounds so corny and cliche, but the feeling of love is genuinely the best feeling in the world. But ultimately, it didn't work out between us, and I realized that just because you're in love, that doesn't mean you're supposed to be with that person forever. A lot of the times, people are only supposed to be in your life for a specific period of time. And if you're able to take something from the moments that you shared with that person, then they've served their purpose in your life. And for me, it was being able to experience what being in love felt like, because now I can discern between infatuation and actually being in love with someone. And for me, I was really thankful for that because now I know that feeling exists. Like there is no greater inspiration or motivation like knowing that feeling exists, because that feeling of love conquers all your vices, lust, greed, envy, etc., all of it. Let's take lust for example, right? I didn't really think that'd be possible to conquer lust. I always had the belief that no matter who you settle down with, deep down a guy's always gonna want more. It's male biology, right? You want to reproduce. And even though, yeah, just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean you're supposed to give in to those vices, right? But I didn't think that it'd ever go away. It'd just be something that you have to always fight. But no, when I was in love, there genuinely was no lust from me. Like I swear, I didn't look at another girl, didn't think about another girl. It was only her. She was the only girl in the world to me. It sounds so cliche, but I was like, wow, I actually genuinely feel this way. Same thing goes for greed. Everything that I did was centered around her. Everything that I did was for her. I wanted to be the best version of myself for her. I wanted to be successful for her. That's what being in love felt like. It conquered all my vices. And I think that's also when I finally understood what they meant when they said that God is love. Because I was like, there's no way this is just chemical. Like there's something divine, there's something godly about this feeling. Like this energy, it was like operating on a completely different level of existence. That's why I don't throw the word love around casually anymore. And a lot of guys should understand this too, because all it takes is a good dinner date, a good night of sex, and a lot of people think they're in love. Bro, don't just be telling girls you love them left, right, and center. Like really take that serious, because it's such a powerful thing. And even though that feeling of being in love is temporary and fleeting, and that choosing to love someone is the real constant, I guess you can say, you also can't help but want to meet the person that makes you feel that way. If most of our motivations are feelings anyways, then I wouldn't mind chasing that feeling above all else. And then ultimately being able to choose to love the person that makes you feel in love with them, I think that's the ultimate peak feeling of being in love with someone in this world. That's the ultimate feeling of love we can feel with someone other than God. I'm not gonna lie, talking about love and being in love and all these feelings makes me feel a little weird, a little bit vulnerable, but that's usually the sign I take to actually make a video on something, is if I don't want to say it, if I don't want to talk about it, because it's like too transparent. And it's funny because I used to think for the longest time that deep down inside I'm a hopeless romantic. And a lot of that is attributed to having a bunch of simp stories when I was younger, when I was a kid in middle school, a little bit of high school. Like I always thought I was a hopeless romantic. I'm not ashamed to admit it. But almost every girl I've been with to this point have said the complete opposite, that I'm not romantic at all, that I'm emotionally unavailable, which is interesting. But yeah, that feeling of being in love, some people might just want to chalk it up to oxytocin or whatever chemicals, but to me that feeling is something that's far greater, something that's definitely from God. And I don't know if I'm ever gonna feel that again. I mean, you can choose to love someone, but that feeling of being in love specifically, I don't know, that was something I didn't think that I could feel. Let me know if you felt that way, where you were so in love with someone that they were the only person in the world to you. That feeling that conquered all your vices, that made you want to be the best version of yourself, etc., etc.